Okay. We should be live now. Let's see. By the way, weak is talk. They still won't hear us, so he's saying. It works. There's only mods here. Hopefully he will be like, I'm streaming at max bitrate, but we don't have quality options because we have never streamed on this channel before. Are you guys aware of like the news like?
Go for landing.
the circles to the beat. Circles. Click. Circles. Click. Circle.
Right, hello everyone and welcome, and we are live for our first podcast, Circle Talk podcast, and we thought it would be really fitting to talk about the history of us, the people in this podcast. So I'm really glad to introduce everyone here. So yeah, you guys are just free to introduce yourself. I guess we can start with Force.
Okay, sure. Hey there, my name is Force, and also known as Omgforz, and I'm a OWC caster and just community caster in general. Also a player, but I don't play that regularly lately. But yeah, that's a short introduction for me.
Just the two Force on screen.
They're two
Monzerious.
I was a plural. I have two S's. Whoa.
Oh,
Everything's
yeah.
changing so fast, man. I can't
also
keep up with this.
Okay,
I'm
dude, calm down. I got this. Okay, continue.
It's all right, yeah.
Professional start.
Hell yeah. Only the best. Oh man. Loving this chat.
Oh no, my Twitch is a plural. Hence why my Twitch handle has like an extra S at the end, and then the Twitter handle has an extra S as well.
My life. Please kill me.
That's looking really good. But for now, I guess Happystick, you want to do a short introduction of yourself?
Sure.
What do you do?
I started playing about 8 years ago. I think it was November 2008. On and off, I've been playing ever since. Streaming a lot on Twitch since about 3 years. And I've never really gotten sick of playing. Somehow I managed to do that along with Doomsday, I think. So, yeah, there's that.
Yep, we're old. I've been around for about 8 years as
much.
well.
Yeah, even longer than me.
Yeah, I've been playing tons since about 2008. I've been streaming for the last couple of years as well, quite frequently. And well, yeah, I've pretty much, I think I've done a bit of everything. I've casted on World Cup. I was a bat for a year and a half in about 2010, 2011.
Oh, you actually were?
Oh.
I
Yeah.
never remember that time.
I did loads of modding. I've like,
Ooh.
well, I don't. I'm trying to remember if I've ever had a map of mine that was ranked ever, like unranked at some point. I can't think of one.
I mean, we're
I
number
just
one
mentioned
in the
that.
next one, right?
But
Like,
yeah,
I wasn't
I'm
even
also-
there at the time, so okay, so
I feel like Doomsday maps are the types of maps that you play if you're a masochist at this point. Sort of AR and, old style. Not in a bad way. I mean, back then, it was obviously the style. But
yeah, of course.
Doomsday is not chessy. Let's put that out of the way.
no, I mean I can't compare to Jesse maps, dude. I mean, like half of my old Insanes were like HP drain 8. So if you missed like 2 notes, you couldn't regen your health. And people were giving me so much shit over that, and I'm like, what's wrong with that? Why don't you just full combo?
just don't be a scrub. Yeah, just
Yeah.
play. Be
It's
good.
good.
Get good.
And of course, yeah, I didn't
your
have the
own.
same quality insurance back then when it came to mapping.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Monzerious. I normally do commentary for a lot of tournaments, and I also been a host of like a series on ESCN's or the Q-Pad show or whatever we call it. I know, and that was fun. I think Doomsday was actually there commentating as well. So
That was a good Q Cup, wasn't it?
yeah, Q-Cup.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that's about it. Okay.
I don't care. It's just gonna keep being mentioned. Otherwise, it's dull.
God,
Yeah.
dude, it's so fluffy.
We'll get there.
It's so
We'll get
fluffy.
there.
Eventually.
You have to keep
Puppy too
Try and
distracting.
keep it down. It'll make sure it sleeps well.
Yeah,
Make it loud.
it never really sleeps in my lap, so I'm hoping this lasts for a while. But we'll see.
And like it's so overly distracted because like I want to talk, but I keep looking at that his fluffy ball of adorableness.
It looks like a bunny.
Okay, so how did like we got introduced to like us in the first place? Like, what made you start to play the game, and like what happened basically? So I guess we can start with Force as well.
All right. Once again, actually, I don't. It was a little bit weird because I started, I guess you could say, twice. The first time was somewhere in November 2011, I think. and I just found the game because I was looking at Toho gameplay. I was like, yeah, that game is pretty fucking hard. I want to see other people play it. So I looked at Toho gameplay and somehow found Oath because of the Toho music. And yeah, eventually I started trying it out, and I was loving it. But I just found the concept of downloading every single map really weird. Like I couldn't be asked to actually do it. So I just kind of quit the game. And then 6 months later, somewhere during summer, I found it on YouTube again and saw some Let's Player play it. And I was like, man, this guy's pretty bad at it. I want to be better at the game. So I played, and I just kind of continued onwards. But that was pretty much the story. And from then on, I kept on playing until I guess a year ago, and now I'm just playing on and off, kind of ish. Well, yeah, that was my story of finding actually Oath and playing it.
Fair enough.
As long as I'm better than this random YouTube guy, I'm good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
No, but I guess
Just playing to be the very best.
like
no one
I
else
was in a similar boat in the sense that I started to play the game twice. So I was your typical Swedish guy. I played Counter-Strike every single day. And one guy actually just recommended me like, oh, here, play this Circle game. It helps you to be more precise, to improve your aim. So I was like, sure. I downloaded the game. I had no clue how anything worked. Like the whole like beatmap system and everything. Like it was so convoluted for me because I didn't have any knowledge like how it worked. So it's played like a tutorial and like one more song. I can't remember like what it was. And it was back like 2012, and I didn't even have an account, I believe. I made like 1 year later.
Such a youngling.
But so I came back like 1 year later and like looked up YouTube on this like big black video that everyone has seen at this point. And I was like, this is what? Okay, nice.
And it wasn't even a good play, right? That YouTube video, it's like
no, but like you have to put
yourself
as a newbie. Like, how would you have like back in days? It was mind-boggling.
I wonder. I wish I could experience the shit that people do nowadays as someone that hasn't really played the game.
Yeah.
Because back then, I remember when I started, I would watch people play, and I would think to myself, like, wow, the people that are really good at this game, they must have memorized these maps. Like, I thought that in 2008. Like, imagine if you don't know Osu and you're watching the gameplay right now. That I can't imagine. It must be fucking insane.
It's probably like watching some high-end Mania when you've never played Mania, isn't it? I imagine it's something like that, maybe. Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's different. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Watch someone play Mania and it's just like, how? 2 seconds, how?
No, in terms of how I got into Osu, back then I played a game called Fear Combat, which was also a first-person shooter.
Oh yeah.
And I had a friend that, just like everybody else, was like, hey, I got this circle game that is supposed to help your aim. Blah, blah. Same story as everyone. Just like also every other story, he played for like a month. We competed a little bit on certain maps, and he stopped playing, and I just kept playing and playing and playing and playing. And here I am today. That's about it.
I think it worked out pretty well, though, man.
Yeah, it went okay.
Yeah.
Ended up with a puppy in my lap. That's all I need, man. Whatever my life before this was, I'm good now.
That's some really like high life accomplishments. It's clicking circles for a living and petting a puppy.
Living the life.
Yeah, whatever floats your
Hell
boat.
yeah.
Living the American dream.
Dear me. Yeah, I found Os via the old gaming site. I don't think it exists anymore. Game Trailers. Like they used to have like a video sharing system on there, right? Like a bit like YouTube.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember.
I don't know. I think I was watching like Screw Attack related stuff, and it said down the side videos uploaded in this category, whatever. And then there was a video in there of the old Super Mario Bros. Theme tune mapped by Luigi Han.
Oh god.
The gameplay of that. And like,
yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and it was like, oh, it's like a music game with game music. That sounds pretty good. So I just went and downloaded it. Downloaded every Toho song because back then I was a massive Toho fanboy. Still kind of am, but
Yeah, me
Yes,
is
yes.
great.
That
Total,
game's old
exactly.
though. It's really old.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, and
No,
then yeah,
sorry.
played for a month, gave up, came back 2 months later, and then never stopped playing since. And that's pretty much how I found out.
I think like Doomsday, if you think about like White Wolf is still the fact that I call him White Wolf says enough. Wolf is also a player that played since 2008. HVIC is, then you, me. What other names come to mind for you? Anyone that have played since like forever?
Blue Dragon, maybe? I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
Blue Dragons
Oh, yeah,
actually
I think
has an
so,
account
too.
from the beginning of '08, I believe.
Oh shit, that's
Sterum,
even longer.
Sterum's been around since like '09, even though he plays sporadically. I think he still plays now. Hiko plays, Anacopla, like
Hiko still
still active.
plays.
I think so, but dropped down in ranks though. But I think Anacopla is still active to a
Yeah,
point.
I remember him being rank 1, and I like looked up to him like, oh my god, this guy must be a god. Wow, that's insane. And then like he started like later when the ranking systems changed, and I like got a higher rank than him. I remember when he was spectating me, I would still get nervous, like this like in awe type of feeling.
It just
Pretty
like
funny how
your
that
inner
works.
fanboy is taking over. Like,
Yeah, same with Doomsday because he was motherfucking rank 1 for I don't know how long you were rank 4, but it's like that gives you that permanent intimidation factor.
Blushy. No, another role player actually that I think not a lot of people notice is Lavals, because Lavals, his old name was Hutka, and Hutka used to be top 10 like in early '09.
Really?
Yeah, I am sure. And then
Rustbelt
stopped
has
playing
played
for years.
forever as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how long for though. Like if it's '08, but definitely a long time, right?
I feel so young here. Like, guys, please.
No, we're just old. That's all.
Yeah, old Pappy story time. Oh dear. Yeah, that's a lot of role players still play, which is
at least casually.
Yeah.
Like most players, like old players, has kind of like either like stopped playing or like doesn't play much more, and then we like have these like bunch of new players going ham like every single day, like you guys used to do like back in the days. But of course, you're still going ham yet today.
It's really hard, I feel, to because if you're a new player, first of all, you have. Well, I'm sure we'll get to this. You have everything going for you in terms of mapping styles, in terms of available skins. That, like, if you compare how smooth the improvement process is right now compared to 6 years ago, it's ridiculous. But it's very hard to stay motivated to do well over a very long period of time.
And I guess that also like translates into like how mapping has like evolved throughout the years, like what old players used to be be good at and play for such a long time, like the really old like static and linear maps, like Doomsday's old maps, for example.
Like AR9, what the fuck? Are you a robot? Oh my god, that is way too fast. Are you on cocaine?
Like AR9 didn't even exist. It wasn't a thing.
Map is like AR7, but yeah.
The thing is though, because there weren't any high ARs because AR was actually back then was tied AR with the OD. So if you get AR9, you get OD9.
Yeah.
And everyone was used to OD5 or something along the lines of that. And it was just such a hard thing to actually just play on. Like OD9.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much that. I mean, it would have been
mistimed maps.
OD10 was a thing of fantasy.
Yeah, it's like, who can do that? No one. I think I remember like an old thread. I forget who posted it.
I remember the one you're talking about, yeah.
Someone said OD9, that's like physically impossible, right? It's like a mod post in this old map thread. Things change now.
By the way, a little bit off topic. I just noticed something. Like we got me and Remco in one line, both using Audio Technicas, and then we got at the other side, we got the Blue Yeti boys.
I'm sorry, the Blue Yeti lost the race.
How dare you?
Hell yeah, dude.
Come at me, bro. Fucking fight you. Okay. No, but let's continue on. But and like when I started to play, it was like at that point where like this symmetrical mapping style kind of started to die out. It was like back in 2012, like 2013, when mapping became more like dynamic in a sense and less like repeating patterns. But
it's a natural inclination, I feel like. Whenever I've tried mapping over the years, I've never actually mapped anything but the natural inclination I feel is to be symmetrical. So it's interesting how that over time then evolved to quote unquote proper mapping, which totally doesn't do that.
The thing with that old style though is like it was visually appealing. And it was kind of easy to build up muscle memory for because it was such a repetitive mapping style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like it's the style of the original like Owen games, isn't it? It's all symmetry and you know, like copy pasting the chorus. That's what all the old maps are based off, right? And obviously, since then, OST has its own style of map now that complements the like keyboard mouse style or tablet mouse style you do. It just changed due to how people play the game, isn't it? But it used to be all Owen, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that you still prefer those older type maps yourself? Because whenever I watch your stream, I feel like that's the main thing that you're playing. The not slow stuff, but the more I don't know how to say it, lower AR type of
like the
style.
I do still like playing them. I mean, I think like if I was just chilling on my own, just playing some OS, I prefer the newer stuff because that's just what I'm used to playing now. But I still enjoy the older stuff in the same way, even if I don't play the same way. So like I play stuff like Cross Time and all these old things that no one ever plays, and it's like it just I still find it fun somehow, even if no one else seems to. I mean, it's fair enough.
And it feels good to get all those rank like top 10 and 20s in like your first try, right?
Oh yeah, because they got like 200 scores on them. It's like
makes your user page look great.
Yeah, like, but it's also a bit interesting in if you like play a map. You were actually struggling to begin with, and then you start playing it like 2 years later, and you're like, hey, this is actually pretty easy now. I guess that's also a pretty weird feeling, an interesting one to actually go for if you want to play old maps.
I guess like it's a combination of like nostalgia and it says just improvement. Like you sometimes just like to go back to older maps to see like how good you have become, and also to like relive the experience of playing that map. Because I know if you guys got the same thing, but some maps like I can't like barely remember like all of the new maps I'm playing, but like some of the older maps is like literally stuck in my head. I still remember like that Sonic Marathon map that I used to play so many times. That was so good. But you know, like it's just like some specific songs or like maps could just like got a place in my heart after just like the pure nostalgia and like the sense of comparing myself, like my current self to my old self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
or like the type of shit where you did, or like the type of shit that you did. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
6 years ago, and you're like trying it today, and you're like, how the hell did I even remotely ever do this? I can't even read this. Oh my god, what is this?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
you never notice when you improve until you go back to something you couldn't do before, and then realize, oh wait, it's really easy now. It's how you notice.
Also, there's something interesting going on, as in when you actually get used to the newer mapping meta, you usually get used to higher approach rates and stuff like that. But when you get back to an older style map, you somehow it feels a lot different, and it feels a lot harder from if you haven't played older maps for a longer time. Like the mapping style, there's something about it where the spacing changes in favor of symmetry, but not really in favor of like flow. And it just sometimes you think, well, how did I actually do that previously if it's like a really weird old map? That's actually a thing I noticed in some players who focus mostly on newer maps, like Illumitors, for example, told me that he has no clue how he got those hidden only plays like 2 years ago. He couldn't beat them at all, even though he had a 60 hertz monitor back then. Couldn't really play and had a mouse and stuff like that.
It's super funny to see the newer players try older stuff. It's really funny because it's completely different.
Yeah, well, it's all off distance snapping in it, or time space equality and all that. So you wouldn't read the AR, would you? You just read the distance between notes. That's how a lot of old mapping was, and now it's
really
not at all. Yeah.
I've never mapped, so I have no idea. I just know that it's different to play, but I don't know why.
You know, like, I feel like, in the sense, like, when I play older mapping styles, I tend to just look in the middle of the screen. But when I play, like, faster maps, or, like, the current meta is just, like, to follow the individual circles on the screen.
Yeah, it's completely different now. Like, you just sort of fathom it off what notes first, right? And that's why low AR is nasty, because of the you can't just follow one note and then the other when there's like 5 notes on screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
one of
And
them.
that's why, like, I think it's good to like go back to practices like AR9, like and lower, because like the standards used to have like 9.3, like with this higher like BPM, like star rated maps, like 9.3, 9.2, 9.4, like it's the new standard. And if you want to like remind yourself and actually play lower AR, like honestly, like obviously it will become harder because like you change your mind, like how fast the circle will appear, which can be really mindfuckery. Like when you just go back and play like AR9 and everything is more dense and like can't do anything.
Yeah.
To me, the decimal AR feels like a new thing, even though I think it got released like what 2013 or 2014 or something. It's like, oh wow, that's new. 9.5. Wow, that's weird.
A whole new world. I think it's
Yeah.
almost like just on my end, it's like, oh, because I'm pretty bad at reading high AR, and I'm like spent years trying to figure out how to read 10.3, and I'm like, yeah, I can finally do 10.3, and now all the insanes are like AR 9.2, and I'm fucked now because I can't do them. So it's like, oh god, well, that's another few years then. Give me
Feels
a
bad, man. You
Feels
got to
bad.
be 13 for that
Yeah.
shit, or too old, man.
Oh,
Gotta accept it.
Yeah, but like the thing that I really like about us is that it's more like the community has shaped like the game along the years, like how it has like transpired. Like you can really see a difference between 5 years ago. Like even like between like if you just look between like different years individually, you can see a huge difference in like what the focus in mapping has been, and of course like the changes in the like different PP systems, etc. And it's really nice to see like how much something can change just based on the community itself, which I really love about those is the sense of like really close community.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel one of the main things that was really cool of Peppy to just let the community decide on was the change from PPV1 to PPV2, because I remember the outrage by the community when Peppy was gonna introduce a system that put people like Rizzo and Andrea in like the top 10, and it was like he was super adamant about it. And if he would have gone about that, if he would have gone ahead and did that, it would have been completely different right now in terms of how the mapping and playing would have progressed as to what he did now, which was to decide to hit up Tom and like work with his system and implement that instead.
Yeah. Like
It's really interesting to think about.
Like on that topic, which PP system like have you get preferred throughout the years? Like I already know like Forrest's opinion on this, but it would be really nice to hear like everyone's, and we can discuss about this. So
Score ranking, let's go.
Hell yeah, dude. People talk about farming, just imagine playing score
Yeah.
ranking. You gotta play everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it
think
does
that's
have its
how a lot of
merits.
people got so good. Like White Wolf and Kukazee and all these people, Doomsday, in your terms of your consistency, I think that's how a lot of people got the consistency that they have today, because they just had to play all this different type of stuff because they needed it for the rankings.
yeah, of course, like
That's how it was. You
it just
needed to
forces you to
score.
play like many maps, to go from map to map to map to map. And today is less like you need to improve to have this one good score on one map to be able to make a huge difference in the rankings. So that's kind of like how we can see a lot of really consistent old school players compared to these farm, like the farm meta that we have today, which doesn't necessarily benefit consistency. It's more about playing one specific map all over again, like all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, like, yeah, sure, back in score ranking, playing lots of different maps helps out with getting used to different styles. But the thing is, as well, is because of the way OS scoring is, the fact that like an SS compared to like a 94% full combo, the score difference is only minor. It's generally full combo of the map and move on. So I don't.
That makes sense.
Yeah, at least in my case, when I played through everything to do it in score ranking, my accuracy was pretty woeful. So that definitely didn't help. I think the newer meta helps out more with becoming more accurate simply because of the way accuracy is weighted.
I missed that memo, I feel.
Okay, so Force, you have done a lot of research regarding like the new PP system and how it works. So I would like hear like how you feel about the current one and the older ones, like compare them a little bit here.
Yeah, all right. So if we just like do a I guess a road through the history, you have score system first, which obviously we talked about, which is pretty much farming heaven, getting a little bit of consistency from it. Then if you continue on, we got PP version 1 somewhere in 2012, I believe it was. And it was interesting as it introduced something along the lines of the higher you are on a map, the more it is worth. So people farmed number one. So it was pretty competitive. That was a good aspect of it. But on truly difficult maps, it just didn't really hold it. Hold the bar against it. Tom94 did, while he was banned in that little period, he created his own system, which was called TP. And I think that's actually my favorite system, even though PP version 2 currently is a newer version of it.
How would you say it was different?
It was different in this. It was quite different because in TP you had three aspects. You had the aim aspect, accuracy aspect, and speed aspect. Every score had a bit of aim, speed, or ac, and together that's your total TP of a score. But it didn't matter what total TP you got. It mattered what you got as an aim aspect. So let's say, for example, let's just backpedal a bit. Each of those ac, aim, and speed aspects are its own PP version 2 system, you can imagine. You need a big score to increase it. All right.
Right.
And the total TP was the sum of all those three aspects. And so if you wanted to get a high aim score, you would need to do something like, I don't know, remote control on DT. That has a huge aim portion to it. And only that aim portion adds to your aim total of all your scores, pretty much. And so in essence, you need to be good at all three aspects. You need a good aim score, or a lot of good aim scores, a lot of good speed scores, and a lot of good accuracy scores to get a good total TP. That's why people like Ruchi or Kokisi were really on top. And one-trick ponies like, if you just mention Kainen, on speed only, he couldn't really get that far in the system. But currently, in PP version 2, it doesn't matter what aspect. If you have a huge aspect of accuracy, the total PP is worth it. So you can farm the entire same thing. That's why hard work and DT farming is a thing.
I do like that, though, because it gives the game in general an aspect of just playing however you want to play, really, rather than being forced into a specific all-around thing, even though probably it would create better players overall because it forces that whole package. You know, it kind of kills the personal preference type of play style.
Yeah.
I thought, like, because I remember TP, I remember having a lot of fun, actually, trying to farm on TP. I thought when PPV2 came out, I thought eventually it would move into that system where each score would be worth either speed, aim, or ac, and it'd work a similar way to TP. It didn't work out that way. I don't know if eventually it may change in the future, but I remember just farming speed because all I could do was streams. I couldn't aim or act. I just did fast. And I remember getting a lot of speed. It was a good time.
What a terrible problem to have, man, being able to do streams.
Yeah, man.
Well, yeah, but
I'm gonna take him outside real quick. I'll be back in just a second.
All right.
Like for me,
come on, buddy.
Like I was basically there when the change happened. That's when I became like a part of the community more. It was like right before. I think I played for like half a year. Then they changed to PPV2. But the thing with the TP system is you could see what people were good at and like see like the ranks. Like, oh yeah, this guy's really good at aiming. Like, holy shit, look at this guy, he's insane. Like, oh, these guys are speed demon. But right now, it highly depends on the map. Like I feel like this year has like kind of like because of these really high star maps, you can now be like a no mod player and do reasonably well. But back in the days, you could be a no mod player in like top 100. Right now, it's maybe you can get to like 300 like with these new maps. I guess it depends on how good you actually are, but I feel like it's kind of like still fairly forced between like hard rock and double time. Like just these two maps, like these two mods, to be able to show that you're good. And that, in a sense, like, of course, it adds more difficulty. It's harder, but I feel like nobody can be hard in its own right as well. And you feel like if you get too overly comfortable with hard rock, no mod can feel a bit odd and it's different. But of course, you still have these like well-varied players. Like, well, Doomsday, you're fairly varied, but you're really known for your like Stanima, like no mod. It's really like these death stream like 4 minutes, 5 minutes maps. And like how do you feel in this setting right now, where like it kind of forces people to go with hard rock or like double time with these overly spaced maps to like achieve, I don't know, like a lot of PP?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, I do agree that, yeah, generally you have to be pretty good at either hard rock or double time to get really high in the ranks. But I think the reasoning for that is more like when it comes to sort of no mod maps that are difficult but have that sort of simplistic aim speed style that, you know, a map would have if you just put like a 4-star insane or whatever double time on. Because a lot of the really hard no mod maps are like really technical or really fast, or have some particular thing that not many people are good at. Whereas a lot of these sort of lower level insanes are simple in their patterns. But if you add mods to them, they still have those simple patterns, but are really spaced or really fast. So those players, there's more maps like that to get PP from. And I think that there isn't that many no mod maps that fit into that category, unless you can do crazy fast stuff or whatever. And
it's 300 BPM mastering maps. Here we go.
Yeah.
But the thing here is that the number one reason why no mod wasn't really the way to go in farming was because back in the day when PP version 2 actually started, what was the state of the game like? You didn't have decimal approach rates. So it was either you have a really hard map or high BPM on approach rate 9. I mean, just look at Atamano Taiso, like the square Blue Dragon map. I mean, that on approach rate 9 is really fucking difficult, gotta admit. And they didn't have decimal approach rates back then.
Yeah.
Plus, it wasn't allowed to have a high OD on no mods. Like, you couldn't have approach rate 9 on a, let's say, 6-star map, and OD 9 too. It just wasn't allowed, really. There were few cases, few exceptions there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like AR9 250 BPM squares. No.
Airman boys.
Yeah.
That's AR10 at least. That's a bit more doable, but still, it's pretty hard.
It's like HP. Wait, what's it? Like HP 2? Like really
something
low.
Like that.
No, but I know, like, I just find it so interesting to like see the differences now. Like, of course, like when I have like high BPM, like AR9 maps, it just like the patterns ended up like, of course, it was really dense because of like even like 9.1, like 9, like AR9 compared to 9.3 or 9.2. Like, it's a huge difference if you compare the timings and like the amount of circles you will be able to see on the screen, because it matters a lot. Especially when you get into like these like 9 points, like 3, like basically 9 plus. Every point is a huge difference in like how dense it's going to be.
Yeah, it just comes down to how you read maps, really. Like older players will be used to having lots of notes on screen, so they generally read in a different way. Whereas new players, I imagine, like just follow, you know, the notes that are closer than the others, just to follow those. It's just the way you read stuff, and obviously, you know, new players when they play in the old dense stuff have trouble because the way they read it isn't really compatible in such a thing. It's like a different skill set to read those things. I think that's how it is. But yeah, like 9.1, well, the difference between 9.0 and 9.1 is pretty major. I think, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Especially, I think it's more of the context in which it's applied. Like 9 and 9.1 wouldn't really be too much of a difference if you have a 300 BPM map. But on a lower BPM where the density wasn't too high to begin with, adding something like 9.3, which you see nowadays, on a 160 BPM map, which should be double timed in theory, you still have 9.3 as approach rate. It makes it a little bit more difficult to double time, and it just makes it a lot easier to read on no mod, for example. And that's just the context. I think it's important where the decimal approach rates make a major difference.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know like a bunch of mappers, like they map a map specifically to be played with double time, or they have double time in mind. Like when they map, like say lower insanes and stuff, they map it in such a way that is double time friendly to the usual double time crowd. I don't know how many mappers do that, but I know a few do, which I find quite interesting actually.
All right, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Yay! The pup is back.
Oh,
The
he
pup is
finally
back.
peed.
Our main guest in this
Yay.
podcast.
Main guest. All right, what'd I miss?
No, what we have been discussing like the decimals in like the new decimal system that we use in AR and how much it changes. Like we compare like for example like old high BPM AR9 maps compared to like new ones. Like for example Atama no Taiso, like we talked about earlier. Just because it's so dense, like it's high BPM, and just because it's AR9, everything becomes so dense. So of course, like compare like let's say like you make a new diff like 9.3, it would be so much easier to read because it's less dense.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know the people that managed to push through that difficulty curve and actually learned how to play those maps, like Kokazi, for example. It's such a major advantage because I feel like if you have the decimal system, it makes it a lot easier to kind of make that difficulty jump smaller, but therefore also less challenging. So in the end, you're going to end up with players that are less good because of it, I feel.
Yeah. I kind of, it feels like it's like making you, like forcing you to rely on your reaction time more than actually looking and see like what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I guess you can
Which makes you
turn
less
up your
consistent.
mind a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's like it's down to whether you just want to play. Oh, I'm only going to play AR 9.2 because that's what I like to play. It's whether you choose to venture out or play all sorts of other things, really.
No, this is 9.1. I can't do that. It's too slow.
Yeah.
And of course, we're not questioning like
Way too slow.
you can play whatever you want to. It's just that when it's come to learning to become overall more consistent and better at the game in general, it's better to be more diverse with what you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, sure, but if you think back on the times when people double time things, it was mostly approach at 8 on double time, which is 9.6, around that much, and that's still pretty hard to read in terms of like density. Nowadays, you have everything on approach at 9 at least, and you even go towards approach at 11 from time to time if people really want to farm that double hard rock. But one thing I found also interesting with newer players is that obviously you're gonna get introduced to high approach rates earlier, but it seems like a high approach rate is like a goal to reach, and it's all about, you know, if you think about it logically, OD1 versus OD10, obviously objectively OD10 is harder. Same with CS, same with HP drain, but not the same with approach rate.
Yeah.
It's like 9's a sweet spot, like 9.5, and then it's like reaction and then reading. There's not a linear progression in terms of difficulty. And you see HVIG doing 10.5 approach rate double time plays, but they don't see his background of being able to read all the low approach rates.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I noticed from personal experience also that if I spend the time properly setting my mind to a reading mindset by playing lower ARs or easy even, or just those 9.6 DTs, that actually the 10.3 and the 10.5 become kind of easier to read in the sense that it's just you're actually reading it a lot more rather than just reacting to it. It's very interesting how that works.
Yeah. And it's like so nice to see like we said back in days, like AR and OD was like this one thing. But it's really nice to see like how these different kind of difficulties just goes hand in hand in together and kind of form how the game is played today. Like OD, like the hit window and like the difference between like which you get a 300, 150, etc. And like how that translates into like AR. Like it's fairly interesting actually, like because AR and circle size, they're purely, well, AR is purely visually, and of course like it might change, like, or not change, like it might seem different, but it's actually still like the same like hit window. It's just like how long you'll be able to see the circle on the screen.
Sure.
Yeah, but you're saying like about how the higher the OD is, the tighter the accuracy windows was back then. Yeah, because actually I remember when that was like, because I was on the, I think I was on the bat team then. I was on like the mat team, which is like a proto bat thing. It's a long story, but I think I was on the like. I remember talking in a thread there when that was like being considered, and I remember arguing against it because of the fact.
That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah, because like, oh wait, because if like, but what if people are going to abuse it because they're going to use like AR5 with OD10, and it's going to be confusing.
That would be hilariously fun to play.
Abuse.
Yeah, turns out, I wasn't really thinking too hard that day. Because turns out it actually turns out to be a brilliant idea.
That was your perspective back then. It's not necessarily bad.
Well, yeah, but I think I was one of the very few back then.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it seems like a very, very good idea. I don't think, like, if every AR10 map was OD10, even if it was like 170 BPM, just... Well, then again, I guess you can argue, like, if that's the case, actually, people would be a lot better at accuracy because no one's going to go below AR9, are they? OD9. But
would be fucking savage.
I suppose, yeah, that worked out well.
Wait, let me do something quickly. Continue.
I think all in all, the general progression of the game has always been a positive change. It causes issues, like, for example, newer players not being able to read. Hell, I can't even read because it's just not because it's hard. People don't like doing what is hard, especially in a game that they play to enjoy. Like, really, realistically, someone like me should be playing lower AR for like a month. No one does it, so it has created those problems. But I think generally every single change so far over the years has kind of been a positive one, or at least to a more customizable and enjoyable game overall.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
It's arguably better. Like of course you got like these two sides, and like you can't say like one thing is entirely objectively better. Like there's this split things between like the two systems that like some things are better in this system, some things are better in other system, and it's just so hard to like combine them into one thing. So it's just so much easier to make something from scrap than to try and like tie two things together, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, I'm with Happystick on the fact that over time, the game has become much more customizable to the player, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, of course.
So I know one thing that like a lot of mappers who like say mappers that make really intricate storyboards and whatnot tend to say is that people can just turn off my hard work storyboard. That's they may. I know some people may be like wary of that because it reduces that element of the game, so people think, you should be that should be a thing that you shouldn't be able to just turn off because it's an intrinsic element of a map. Like
I remember there being an argument for Peppy for a long time that you had to play through it because back in the day, I don't know if you guys mentioned it, you couldn't turn off backgrounds, you couldn't turn off storyboard or anything. So what you had to do was you had to go into the folder of the song, you had to delete all the elements so the background would be black. So Peppy was like, all right, that's obviously not very productive. So what I'll do is I'll introduce a way to dim the entire background. But because people spend a lot of time on the background on the storyboard, you have to play through the entire map once before that function becomes enabled.
That's
so that was part of that reasoning. Like a lot of people spend a lot of time, so you have to sit through it once, and then you can turn it off once you've seen it.
But the funny thing is that sparks like a huge wave of people just playing no fill, double time hidden, and just playing through the map, and it just didn't work. It just did not work.
They indexed it. Like with his mini PP gains, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, the thing with me is that I'm kind of like on both sides here. Like, it's so hard for me like to put my one side because I do respect storyboards. Like, I find it amazing that people just spend time and do something that is visually appealing and just amazing overall to a map. It just brings more life to the map in general, which I love. Like, I find it really appealing. Like, I can literally go into theater mode, just like watch a storyboard from time to time if I find it to be good. But I also feel like you should have an option to turn them off. And of course, it's not to disrespect those people who spend their time doing it. I just find that the players should also have the choice as well as the story, like the mapper have the choice to make one in the first place. Because that's basically what they're signing up for right now. And I don't have any problem. Like, I'm not a mapper, but as a player, I'm like back and forward, like regarding that kind of
That's
stuff.
also what that message in the background when you do delete a background and it's like, don't delete backgrounds, it makes us angry. Like that is of the fact that Peppy was implementing that feature of needing you to play through it once before you could dim it.
Yeah, of
To
course.
try and prevent that in a weird way, because somehow that was intimidating and people thought that they would get banned if they did it too often, like initially when it came out.
Yeah, of
I was
course.
thinking, like, are they sending stuff to the Peppy HQ every time I delete a background, right? Some sort of cheat.
They have a list of every single time that you did it.
They will come for
Your
you.
watch list.
There is
Just
one
watch list.
example of that I want to mention as well. I mean, I'm with you on the fact that you should be able to turn them off because it's, player experience. You should be able to do whatever you want. But what about those old approved maps where the storyboard was designed to like fuck around with the player, confuse them, or those old DJ Max Technica style stuff? You know those maps where it's like it emulates that other rhythm game where you have the one line going across and the other one going down.
Yeah,
down the
that
bottom?
was funky, man. I tried it. I could not get a hold of it. It was crazy.
Yeah, but like, what about those?
Yeah, no, like
I wonder, should those be? Should you be able to play those and just dim the background because it makes them? It pretty much destroys the intended purpose of those maps.
Well,
What do you think
it
about
destroys the
They're
purpose.
gimmick to begin with, right?
if like
It's still
yeah.
like approach rate 0, right? I think it's like still approach rate 0, like a really low approach rate. So even if you remove the storyboard, it's still really fucking hard to play. I've got to
Yeah, of
admit.
course.
I play those with storyboard on because I can't play it otherwise.
Yeah, and of course we have a lot of interesting things that people have done with the storyboard as well, like AR12 maps, like entirely based on the storyboard. That like they have completely like, oh yeah, you need to like remove the skin, you want to see the skin, so you can just click on the storyboard, as well as like Yule beat maps and stuff like that as well. Like it's so interesting to see how people can play around with the storyboard to make it entertaining in its own unique way.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane what people come up with.
Yeah. By the way,
All right.
if you're a mapper out there, like I highly suggest you just like play around with stuff. People love mappers who like do these unique kind of servers. Like even though it takes a lot of
Except
time.
if you do it in triangles.
We're the same what? No, but there's one interesting thing I actually want to throw into the room in terms of discussion, which is we did talk about the customizability being changed for OS in general. Like you can set up decimal approach rates for mapping, you can remove the backgrounds, storyboard skins, etc. But there's still I guess a layer of customizability which isn't there in the game yet, and that's actually changing your own OD and approach rate for yourself on the map. And there have been some discussions going on, which is as in, yeah, the player shouldn't be able to change the approach rate because it would destroy the mapper's vision. But then other people argue that it's actually approach rate is just an artificial difficulty added on top of the map, which is already difficult or easy. It's an interesting topic in terms of like how far do you want to go with customizability? Where do you want to stop?
I would.
Yeah.
People have asked me in the past. I remember someone starting like a thread and like going to known players to ask for their opinion or their backing. I don't remember who it was, but I'm very, very against that. From even though I suck at lower AR, and in that sense, it would help me as a player. I don't think. It was just everyone would just play things on AR10, and then just it would put the issues that are present right now and just magnify them by 100-fold.
Yeah.
That's what I think would likely be the result. No one would play any lower AR unless it's actually to practice, which no one really does because it's a circle clicking game.
Yeah.
So
It's an interesting one. I'm with Happystick on the fact that I feel like the AR is like it's an intrinsic part of the difficulty of a map. But the same thing is as well that I'm always thinking of, and I'm like, is approach rate in standard the same as scroll rate in Mania, which is completely adjustable? If you turn it down all the way when you're used to playing it really quickly, it operates the same way. But should it be considered something manually adjustable, like in that mode, if they are a like for like thing, compared to
I don't think it is.
like
I don't know. It's hard to say.
the thing for me is that I played a bunch of meta game, and that's like vital aspects of those games. You will be able to like to change like the density, like how fast they scroll, and I think that also ties into like it's similar to AR, but I think that also has like a whole different like system on how it should be played. So I feel like it actually is better for it to be like its own kind of difficulty because it's a whole different focus. Like on Mania, you just have to rely on like clicking like what you see on the screen. In Us, you need to be able to do that and
Click
aim
what is
at
on
the
the
same
screen.
time. Well, and aim. Or I don't know if I play on a tablet or something, but I
mean,
feel like
yeah.
I know,
Sorry.
like I feel like it shouldn't be like that because that is also has like developed throughout the years, and I feel like it also makes it a bit unique in a sense. And I feel like it will totally ruin the whole system that we have now. But what if? That's the question. So
Well, that's for sure. Yeah, like maps like Atama no Taisu would then become easy-ish, right?
yeah.
Type of thing. So it would kind of ruin a lot of culture surrounding a lot of the history. Now, that is obviously never an argument to not improve something if you feel that it is an improvement. I can't judge because I've never played Mania or anything. I can't judge if approach rate there or scroll speed is similar to AR. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't have necessarily good logic to back it up. I just feel like it would be a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what you guys are saying actually is a good point I didn't really think of. The fact that, you know, when you're playing something like Mania, it's more down to dealing with the rhythm. Of course, you have to read the notes coming down, but it's more about the
Osu
rhythm.
isn't rhythm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. But
50-50, let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
But yeah,
And
the aim aspect is such a massive component, and that aim aspect definitely is, well, the approach rate, reading whether it's low or high, is actually quite intrinsic to that. So that's actually something I don't really think about. So now I'm still thinking, yes, AR is an intrinsic part of a difficulty of a map, but that kind of backs up that point, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Like one thing that I feel like OSAS exited like the point where you heavily relied on pattern recognition, and that is essentially what Main is all about. It's about recognizing the patterns and memorizing it because they will be used in every single map because that's how it works. Simply, like in every Mina game out there, like I don't know what the terms are called, but I do have a lot of like Mina friends and I played a lot of Mina games myself, but
It's maybe a lot more straightforward in that regard. Just like a lot less because it's just 4 or 7 or whatever many keys. Is it a lot less dynamic? What's the word?
Yeah. Like that was what I was going to like use in the system. Also, like OSAS becomes so more dynamic, so you don't rely like only on pattern recognition because when you play Mania at a really high level, you can look at every individual note. It doesn't work like that. You need to recognize the pattern in how it moves. And also like include like the BPM, like how fast it's going as well. So that kind of like ties into that. But I think like OS is way too dynamic right now to the point where like pattern recognition doesn't benefit you that much compared to back in the days.
Yeah, Well, it's like Mania generally as well. When you get into the harder charts for it, like the rhythms get very, very complex, and it's about, you know, nailing those really tricky rhythms. Like, you know, they go up to like 1/12 and even higher than that when you reach high levels. So that's more where the high end comes in. It's more rhythm based, whereas OS has the aim aspect, which is such a massive part of it that it isn't really rhythm based. It's a complete aspect, you know. But yeah.
An interesting thing to think about is actually that in the history of Mania, you were always able to change the scroll speed. What if the same would be true for OS? Like, would we have the same arguments for it, or would it just be a case of being used to it? That's actually one thing we can never really answer.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like in Osu AR is mainly if you are able to read lower AR, what that really means practically mentally is that you have a larger buffer mentally for stuff that is going on and more like literal mental buffer to keep track of stuff, which means that when you then go to higher ARs where there's less stuff on the screen, you will be a lot more consistent because it'll be a lot less of a mental strain because that mental buffer is like not nearly as filled.
Yeah.
Because there's just not that much going on. So then it depends more on mechanical skill.
Yeah, because like if you compare like something that's really dense, like it forces your mind to work and kind of like read what is going on, like kind of follow the patterns compared to something that is really like spaced and like is high AR. That kind of where the back of your mind that just says reaction, like it just reacts to what's happening, and it's kind of similar to like tap, and it's like high star, like high mania play. But one thing that would really interested to bring up is the scoring system, and like kind of like similar like how the scoring system is also works compared to every other like rhythm game like Mania, because every like most other rhythm game has a similar scoring system where you have this is the high score. You need to build up to this high score, and it's often just accuracy based. I think Taiko is a little bit different. I think there's some combo involved, but not that much.
I don't want to push anything. It's like 13 past the hour already. It's like moving really fast. I have to go in like 20 minutes because I have a tournament coming up.
Yeah, 20 minutes seems like a good point to wrap this up. So I guess we can follow up with this up a little bit and then move into questions. And by the way, just a reminder, which I haven't told you guys before, you guys can send us questions through Twitter, which you can probably find a hashtag under Happystick. Right under there will be hashtag Circle Talk. So if you have any question that is directed to us in general or like any specific person, if you feel like you have a very special question, just shoot at it. Hashtag Circle Talk question tweets, and that's it.
Go easy on us. But yeah, I was trying to bounce off the talk about like the way Oast is scoring, and that's the big question. There is the massive combo multiplier. Is it too much? Because that's the big thing. A lot of people say combo scoring is weighted way too heavily, and that's a thing. And that's one of the key things. I think combo scoring is very important with Oast because of the massive importance on aim and aiming everything properly.
Yeah.
Even I do think it is a little bit higher. I mean, it's a little bit too high. I think it should cap out at a certain amount of combo, but I think it should definitely like contribute
to
a
the
large
point
amount.
where it doesn't break the scoring system and you start going backwards, right?
That's the thing.
It definitely fixed that, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
there is a fix for that though, which Pepe might include, but I don't think it's necessary.
It's called missing.
Oh.
No, but I don't know.
Some
It's hard to say. I feel like you need an expert, like, well, not expert, but someone that's played every mode. Like Rustbell would be, he would be a wealth of information in terms of perspective on a lot of these things because he's so good at so many different modes, right? It's very hard to be specifically very good at one thing and then to somehow reason about stuff that you are not familiar with.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, should we like follow up with this question, or do you think that we should move into questions now? Like we do still have a little bit of time, so I'm not sure.
I think we should follow
Sure.
up to the questions.
Okay, so Poised, select some nice tweets for us, and I guess we can go on rambling meanwhile. Okay, see here. Okay, so what do you think about mouse players' progression, especially as Injured has suddenly got himself to 1 and 2nd in the like global scoring?
What was that?
I think. Yeah. Oh, this one for Doomsday, by the way. Before I say anything.
Yeah, obviously it's for Doomsday.
Pretty much about mouse
awesome.
player progression, yeah.
By the way,
Okay,
Poised,
I see.
can you increase the message to 10 seconds instead? Like when it's a lot of text, it can be a bit hard.
All right. I think, honestly, I feel like, yeah, tablet players vastly outnumber mouse players. But I feel like, you know, the number of mouse players in, you know, the top 100 is numerous enough to say that, yes, it's not like a fluke when some mouse player reaches the top level, because it's just a case of which one you'd rather go with. I mean, I know, just to quickly touch on the mouse versus tablet thing, early on, I feel like tablet is easier to learn, but once you reach like the mid-level and you're used to your readings on point and all that, both are viable all the way up to the top 100 level. And certainly a lot of the players in the top 100 that are mouse, you know, give you a good indication of that, I think.
Yeah, like if you look at it, obviously, like tablet, it's absolute. Mouse is relevant. That would be like the easiest way to,
Relative position.
Oh yeah,
is
relative, not relevant. Relative positioning. So, of course, like it's a fact that tablet will have an easier learning curve because it's absolute. Like it's like easier for a mind to process it compared to something that is relative.
I feel like a lot of it's down to reading, though. Like reading such a massive part of getting good at OS that once you've got your reading down, you can generally do well with either.
It's like watching Angel Sim. He does like 7.5 star FCs on a tablet too. But it's also interesting to think about the aspect of community where everyone like the general consensus is that mouse is worse than tablet for Osu. At least that's what everyone seems to think is a better way to put it. To what extent does that belief then also inhibit people from actually getting as good with a mouse as they can be, right? To what extent do they feel like, oh, I can't get any better because I need a tablet for that? And then when they get a tablet, that mental block is not there. And then suddenly they feel like they get a lot better. It's, I don't know.
Feel
it's
like
hard to say.
Mentality based as well.
I think there are 2 big points, actually. The first one is obviously, if you look at it objectively, you do have a problem at mouse playing, which you don't have a tablet, which is mouse drift. I actually personally like mouse better. I like playing with a mouse a lot more. It just feels better than having a tiny ass pen in your hand. But I'm just better with the pen. I'm better with tablet, right? But also a big thing I think is a factor, which is like it's more of a social thing rather than you can't get good with a mouse. Because if you think of any top player who's your idol or your favorite when you started out, chances are they have a tablet. And obviously there's so many mice out there and you're like, I don't have the same mouse as Angels, same or something along the lines. It's a lot easier to buy a tablet and then you're pretty much on the same level of hardware as everyone else.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like a mouse is probably much harder to like set up in general to get that good setup. I don't know to what extent that is true, but
okay, so a little tidbit for
inclination.
Yeah, like a little tipper for people who want to focus on mice, that sensor is key and what your own personal shape is of the mouse, what you prefer playing with the most. And then you can just play around with it a lot, like your grip, and try to like find which one gives you more free movement and more grip on the mouse, so you can kind of eliminate the drift. So yeah, and that's about it. I guess we can move into the other question because this is just will go on and on.
Yeah,
and on.
let's go.
Infinite.
The never-ending question.
Oh.
Would you like it if Osu had seasonal ranking system where all players people would raise it at 0 each season from Trick 37.7?
No, wow. Oh, that would feel so bad initially. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like people work for all their scores, and it's like
Yeah,
if they
it
get
feels
reset every
bad,
3
man.
months, no one's gonna
Yeah.
try hard, are they? Well, for like way
I feel
too
like
hard.
that would just facilitate more farming. Like there would just be like a list of maps that would make sense to play that season, and then people would play that and not even really put the effort into the actual real like milestone maps, so to say, because they would just reset anyway. And generally, those milestone maps aren't worth as much.
Okay, so I would really like to play around with this idea a lot. So we've all heard about teams before, of course. It's something that's going to be introduced later. And I thought that something similar could be introduced to teams. And we like can be able to select teams and like which teams got like the lead on this specific map like this month. That would be an interesting way, but I don't feel like you should overwrite the current system because that would just be a bit off and weird, in my opinion.
Oh, it would be cool. I feel like it should, when it's going to be implemented, I feel like it should more like be just a cool thing where it's like you're rooting for a team to win, and it's like cool if they do, but it doesn't really determine individual ranking, as much.
Yeah,
but
I think like something with that is something. I'm guessing what you were going at there would be to like determine who is the best at the moment as opposed to who is the best over the course of years. But I think something like that would work better as some sort of multiplayer ELO system sort of thing, rather than solo score.
That's actually a good point there. I mean, just thinking about it, if you look at it objectively, which games do have a seasonal ranking? mostly games which have a lot of change in them, like League of Legends or something along the lines of that. It's it's pretty much because there are so many big changes in the game, it makes a little bit of sense, because to that date the game was a lot different in terms of playing, and you had a different meta or something. But in O's, the only thing which is true is your own skill, and if you get like a good score at the end of the first season and you start the second season, chances are you do this exact same plays. So it's pretty much static. It's static and not as evolving as League of Legends or any other kind of seasonal ranking system.
In that regard, something that I recently kind of realized that I found really sad is that really, at least I don't know if it's a general community thing or for me personally, because I've been playing for so long, but that sense of wonder really seems to have been killed lately, like where people are only impressed if a score is like 700 pp. It's just some ridiculous thing, whereas I don't know, just only the extremes, which the more something progresses, it'll happen less and less and less, because you just have to be at a ridiculous level to get there.
Yeah, that's essentially like how the PP system
just a random
works.
thought.
Well, the same way as back when 2 years ago, when 500 PP might have been the top, same thing. It's just the top level keeps getting pushed up and up. I think that's just more like
that's going to slow down, don't you think? Like to a point where right now it's been what? There's one 800 PP score, but it's so unlikely that within, I'm sure it will happen again, but not nearly to the frequency that like right now we would have 600, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just I haven't thought it through. It's
okay, let's wrap this up and continue into another question.
Oh. Okay.
Right, boys.
Keep going on. There's so much to talk about.
Okay, hit us up with another one, boys.
Hit us up.
Hit us up. This stream is still sponsored by Zoe. Kappa.
Gotta get it in there, man.
Okay. Your top 5 at the end of 2017. Ooh, is that like player-wise? Or I guess it's player-wise, since that's essentially what we talked about. Oh god, like it's so mixed. Holy, like I would rank like recently, like I know, like 2017, 2016. Like recently, I would say that Adam and like Jay-Z, they're mind-boggling. Like their plays has been so phenomenal recently, especially Adam with his like.
Adam QS. I say his name.
Adam QS. I was like, I should have mentioned his own name, but I know like his playstyle, it's unique to the sense where he can play these like underweight maps and still have fun. It's like really nice to see these really impressive scores that no one has been able to set for like 3 years on super old maps. It's really impressive. So he like, it would be so hard for me to make up a top 7 at the spot, but he would probably be up there like top 3-4-ish for me.
It's so hard, right? Because all you can do is make your assumption based on recent events.
Yeah.
Whereas like improvement tends to be in such spurts. It's really interesting how that works. I definitely say Vaxi, Kukuzi if he keeps playing, or in general, really, if you talk about ranking by PP. Dustus, if he keeps going, he's been going ham. Hopefully someone like Rohawk, that'd be cool. Finally let the memes become real, actually get good.
No, but I actually agree with you with like Vaxi, like such a god. He's so young.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so he's not even remotely reached his prime in terms of his age,
met
right?
him, so right?
Yeah. He is tiny. Not tiny as in his height, but like young. It's interesting.
I saw the LAN picture of you guys.
And he's gonna wreck me again tomorrow because we'll be playing against him and Toy tomorrow at a LAN.
Good luck.
I'll get double wrecked. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Let's continue with Taran and Force.
Yep, I've no idea even where to begin to answer that question because there's so many factors. I'm just gonna say no comment because I am an absolute softie and I can't put anyone above anyone else.
Okay, fair enough.
Pause, have you got one?
Name the entire top 100.
I'll just read the top 5 in PP right now. Hold on.
I'm just gonna give a generalized answer, which is anyone who has the right idea of playing O's, which is not to focus on the one specific skill set, and has a lot of motivation to play, is a good shot. For example, Adam QS and Rohawk seem to be like one of the run-ups. there's obviously so many people out there, it's really hard to just name them all. So anyone who has enough motivation for the entire year and just is out to practice and to get better, not just to waste their time and just play circles.
Okay, I guess we can fit in 2 more questions. Remco, how is it looking on your end?
I mean, fine.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I have the match at 2, so that's all I,
Okay, let's try and wrap it
there
up
you go.
really soon. Okay, so Poised, hit us up with yet another question. Want some juicy? What are your favorite music artists that you found over Osu by Narkio?
Ooh, that's nice.
As
Oh god,
interesting.
me
There's
personally,
So many.
I generally like if I had to put like 2, like it will be 2 like really popular and obvious choices, but I don't generally like I listen to a lot of hardstyle and a little bit of hardcore in the past, but I don't necessarily I like a little bit of happycore. But there was one guy who stood out for me. And I might feel a little bit of Swedish pride here, but yeah, he's my famous dad, Hellmind. Like he's phenomenal.
Of course.
He's a really nice guy. I've talked to him before.
he's Swedish too, right?
Yeah, he's Swedish.
Yeah.
And then
Correct.
Camille,
Nice.
because Camille's extinct
I love
extinct
Camille.
style
She's great.
of really okay. It's just Camille's extensive style of combining the different genre, but it's more leaning towards glitch hop. But I know I really like that extinct sound. It's so good.
Yeah, Camellia is definitely probably one of the ones I've enjoyed the most when discovering artists from OS. I'm trying to think of other ones. I mean, YOOH, the rhythm game artist, I really like their tunes as well. Found that from OS, even though it's originally from other rhythm games. But it's mostly just rhythm game music from rhythm games I never played before, really. Outside of that, I generally just played maps either from the charts and whatnot, because a lot of the Western music, not all of it obviously, but a lot of it was from the charts when so you generally already know them. But a lot of those rhythm game artists that really caught my attention is what I found from OS, I think.
Yeah. That I have to kind of jump on that bandwagon. Any music, any artist from Citus, that rhythm game, just absolutely phenomenal. And just think people or artists like M2U, absolutely amazing. I mean, I could play some of their songs for days on end, and it's just sometimes so rhythmically diverse. It's quite a joy to just play it in general. But yeah, also I've got introduced to a lot of Japanese artists with this game, and obviously there are some generic ones out there, like High Tide or something, which sound pretty much like the same.
Every
exact
single anime
song.
opening, almost.
But there are some
Famous
interesting
song.
artists like Calafino or Camellias, as you said. Those kind of artists do have a special place in my heart, at least.
Right, I guess we can wrap it up with one more question before we wrap up the whole stream. So, Poised. It's yours. Okay, what are all your favorite / best methods to keep up consistency? One day I feel like I rank 40k, Kukisi, and other I'm just trash.
Just play all sorts of different maps. Just play lots of variety. Not just grinding one thing at a time.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people fall into the trap where they get like a collection type of 40, 50, 60, 70 maps that they really kind of cycle through. And eventually, after you've done that for a couple days, you're just going to be playing those kind of on autopilot, and you're not going to be warming up the way that you should.
Yeah.
Or you're just in general are not going to be playing really like you should. So yeah, just make it a point to not get stuck in that just couple of maps type of thing. And I think that a lot of people do that, even if subconsciously. Like when you think about what you play during a day, for a lot of people, it's generally the same stuff, me included, really. It's really hard. But yeah, I think that is a large factor in that.
Yeah, me personally, the fastest way I've seen myself improve, I don't really play the game much anymore, but before when I played the game a lot, I tend to make these different kind of sets of maps that focus on different aspects, but are also different in said aspects, for example, streaming, maps that are more read heavy. Like, I don't really like to go for like the same similar maps. Like, it's more like different maps, not like, oh, stream practice map, stream practice map, stream practice map. Like, I just think maps that are fairly streamy, but like in a different kind of way. Like, some are high BPM, some are high spaced. It's just to get this feel for different feel, like a taste of different things, while you are like improving yourself, like overall at those aspects. It's just like like different with streaming. Like there's so many different aspects you need to think about, and like one thing might be hard, like for a specific stream, and like you learn that, and that's easy. But another stream, on the other hand, let's say like it's low BPM, but it's also like really spaced. That might be really hard for you. So it's really nice to vary yourself within these aspects as well.
Yeah, I find I do best when I just play random stuff at a day and like ask people to send me like 6-7 star ish. Just go through a bunch of stuff that I haven't played for an hour, and that tends to be the best warm up rather than going through my quote unquote warm up collection and playing the same stuff. Because it also, like, generally speaking, if you play a map, your best play is going to stand out in your head, right? And then if you play that map again and you do worse, it's going to put you in this negative mindset where it's like, oh, I'm not doing as good today as I was doing that previous time. And that carries over, and it like magnifies itself generally. At least for me, that's a personal problem that I have a lot. So yeah, just no expectation, really play a lot of different stuff and then go from there.
And of course, mindset is key as well. Okay. As you mentioned, like you
definitely.
shouuld feel like
and sleep
you're
and eating and just being good in health, right?
Make yourself feel good. Like just image, like just look at this puppy. Look at this puppy. It's so puppy. It's so adorable.
That's gonna give a positive
Here,
attitude.
Osu skills. Here you go. There you go. You're gonna do great things today. Yeah, buddy.
I can
All right.
Okay, so
On that note, guys,
Remco.
I'm gonna go ahead and let this guy out.
Okay.
I'll leave the camera on until you guys finish.
Remco has revealed,
so it doesn't mess up the layout. Yeah. I'm gonna turn my camera around.
Okay.
And go ahead. So thank you guys for having me.
No, thank you for being here. So I guess we can kind of wrap this up. Good. So do you guys anything other to say to the viewers out there? Anything in particular? You say goodbye? You know?
Play more.
Play
Thanks
more.
for watching.
Please enjoy a game.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say the same. Maybe even go as far as to quote Rohart there: "Get good scrub."
Get good scrub.
Always keep on practicing. Don't focus on single things.
You need to believe in yourself. You need to cross the river. Okay. So I guess that's about it. Thank you very much for stopping by and watching this live. So this will probably get uploaded tomorrow on your YouTube channel if you somehow didn't catch the whole thing, or if you want to share it around with some friends, because that would greatly help us. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So as mentioned before, this is a bi-weekly podcast, so it will be aired every other week. But yeah, thank you very much, and have a good one, guys.
See ya.